you will persevere and strengthen your faith. And Pastor Brad is going to come up and give us our next lesson that we learn about perseverance from the life of Jacob.
So the second lesson that we learn from Jacob in a faith that perseveres is this. Go ahead and write this down in your notes. It's, I look for God's purpose while I'm waiting. I look for God's purpose while I'm waiting. So back in the story, Jacob waited 7 years for Rachel, only to get tricked by his uncle and deceived and has to work another 7 years. Put yourself in his shoes for a moment. What would that have felt like, to be deceived and all of a sudden you have to work another 7 years to get the one that you truly love? And then to make matters worse, he didn't get Rachel right away, the one that he loved. He had to wait. Look at what it says here in Genesis chapter 29, verse 28. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban gave him Rachel too. So my math isn't very good, but I do know that 7, so he worked 7 for Leah, and then he worked 7 years for Rachel, so 7 plus 7 is 14. So 14 years Jacob had to wait. 14 years he had to wait to get away from his deceptive uncle and to leave with the family that he had. I can't imagine that. Like, I can't even wait 14 minutes for the Q train, let alone any more time than that. So the idea of waiting this long is kind of crazy. And the reason why is waiting is difficult, right? Waiting can be very hard, and maybe you're in this situation. Maybe you're waiting right now, waiting for your boss to appreciate you so that you can get that promotion, or waiting for school to end, like college, so you can move on with your life, or waiting to meet that certain someone so that you can fall in love and spend the rest of your life with them. And so we are always in waiting. And during these times of waiting, I know I've questioned, God, why am I waiting? Why? What is up with all this waiting? And I think that's a perfectly good question to ask, and there's nothing wrong with that question. But I think maybe I can help you guys with this question. I have 3 reasons why God might be making us wait right now. So you can go ahead, you can write these off in the margins of your notes or in the little space in the notes. Here's the first one. God wants to draw me closer. He wants to draw me closer. Sometimes we drift away from God. We drift away, we get caught up in work, we get caught up in all these things. We might stop praying or reading the Bible like we should, or maybe this is the first time you've been to church in a long time, and we start to drift away. And so God will make you wait, because once you've exhausted all of your other resources of diving in, getting that new job or that new relationship, and nothing's working out, and you're still waiting, God will give you that resource where you will draw near to Him, and you will go back to God. And so maybe He's making you wait to draw closer to Him. Or maybe it's the second one, that God has something better for me. He has something better for me. See, sometimes what you see right now and what you want, it may seem really good, but the truth is that there might be something better. God may have something better in your life. You might have thought that job seems so perfect. God, why didn't I get that job? Well, maybe He has a better job for you. Or, that date, it seemed to go so well, but she's not calling me back, and here I am waiting again. And so maybe God is having you wait because there is somebody better for you. See, sometimes we want something, but what we really need is something else, something completely different. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes we want something, but what we need is something completely different, and God knows that. And so He makes us wait because He has something so much better for us. And that's encouraging. So here's the third one. God wants to grow me. Go ahead and write that down too. God wants to grow me. See, sometimes God has you wait because He wants to grow your faith. He wants you to learn patience and endurance. He wants you to have faith and character. So He'll have you wait so you can grow in that. So God teaches you this, like teaching you to pray and have patience so that when a time comes that's difficult, you will be ready for it. And so He has you grow. But let's be honest with ourselves, if we can be. We don't like to wait. We don't. We live in a place in New York City where no one wants to wait. And you hear people complaining all the time when the train stops. And you're like, I got to get to work. We don't like to wait, right? It's just true. But I want to tell you this. we don't like to wait, and we try to push our own agenda, we try to do our own thing, and we say to God, you know what, I'm not going to trust you, I'm going to trust myself. I know you have a plan for me, but I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to have my own plan. And when we do that, guys, we are pushing God off to the side, and he can't fulfill his purpose in our lives and the plan he has for us. So we need to trust in the Lord because he has our best interest at heart. I want to tell you a story that prior to living in New York City, my wife and I, Rachel, we were living in Pittsburgh. And while we were in Pittsburgh, we were praying about what God wanted for us next, and he called us to New York City. Woo! And so what we did is we packed our bags, and we quit our jobs, and we moved out here. And Rachel found a job, my wife found a job right away, and it was a huge blessing, but that wasn't the case for me. I applied for jobs and I waited. As a matter of fact, I even applied for a job here at The Journey, and I didn't get the position. And it was almost an entire year that I was waiting, praying for a job, and nothing happened. So I eventually took a job as an overnight manager at a pharmacy. And I'm going to be completely honest, it was not the best job. I missed out on holidays. I never really got to see my wife, Rachel, and it just wasn't working out, and I was discouraged. So after working this job for a while, The Journey called me and gave me an opportunity to work an unpaid 6-month internship with them. And so I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I talked to my wife, Rachel, about it, and we decided that I was going to take this internship. So I took the internship, and it was great. But one thing that you may not know is after the 6 months, there was no guarantee of a position afterwards. It was just 6 months, that's what was guaranteed, and then nothing afterwards. And so I was still in this stage of waiting because I knew with our finances that if something didn't come up, that we would probably have to leave New York City, a place where God had called me. And so I remember 3 months into the internship kind of being just discouraged. Lord, you know, I know you have called me to this, but I kind of want to take matters into my own hands. I want to take maybe a different job, apply for these other jobs. And I remember just thinking, no, God has called me to this. God has called me to The Journey, and I'm going to be faithful, and I'm going to work hard. And so after that 6 months, I now can stand before you guys as the new pastor of ministries here at The Journey. And it's only because I had faith in God and I trusted him to provide. And I waited. 6 months, that was not easy. Just waiting, not knowing. But God provided. And so, guys, I don't know where you're at today. I don't know why God has you waiting. I have no idea. But one thing I do know is this, and I know this for a fact, that God has a purpose for your waiting. Absolutely has a purpose. If I would have gotten the job at The Journey when I first applied for it, I would not have been ready. God knew what he was doing. He had me do this internship to prepare me so I can minister to you guys better, so I could do my job better. And so I thank God for that internship because it prepared me. So I don't know what's going on, but he has a purpose for you. And he's going to fulfill that purpose. This is where our memory verse actually comes in for the day. It's James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. Actually, I'd like us to read this out loud together, starting with when troubles of any kind. Are you guys ready? Go. When troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. So on a side note here, oftentimes when we're waiting, God is in the background and he's doing something. He's working his plan and his purpose out. One thing that you might not realize about the story of Jacob is that, see, Jacob wanted Rachel, but he got Leah instead. And at the time, that seemed very difficult for him. But if we fast forward almost 2,000 years to the birth of Jesus, guess whose family line that Jesus was born through? It wasn't Jacob's favorite Rachel, but it was actually Leah that Jesus was born through. And so God was working out his purpose, 2,000 years after the fact that Jacob was faithful when he waited. And see, he's doing the same exact thing in your life right now. He's working out his purpose in your life. And we need to sit in that and wait patiently and pray to God to reveal his purpose. And while we do that, it helps us develop a stronger faith. And see, I think that is key to helping us take that next step and persevere.
All right, so perseverance grows our faith when we expect challenges.